Season 2 of the Pat and JT podcast.
Oh man, I'm here at last. The best time, always gonna be the best. Come on!
Exclusively on the Parkville Network.
Well, all right.
Pretty pumped today. You can text us, 402-403-9478. Text voicemail to the show. We appreciate it very much. Appreciate you listening, subscribing, downloading wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm going to let you go ahead and do this. This is kind of like your jam.
Well, I'm very, very excited. First of all, we've wanted to have Marty Cordero.
For months. Months. We've been working on this.
Well, then why haven't you asked?
We've been asking the wrong.
Stormchasers.
We can't get past your people.
Yeah, you have people that
people.
Then, and you have good people. They're very good gatekeepers.
Yeah, you're a
but
busy guy.
You're here. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
And you guys have been for a while. I'm wondering in just a couple seconds. I want to talk to Marty. You guys have been working on for a minute this 50 Summers documentary that kind of chronicles the whole history of the Royals, Golden Spike, Stormchasers from 52
summers. Years now.
52 years technically. Yeah, that's right. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, I'm going to be in this movie.
I'm part of the
movie. I was part of
movie.
that for 5 years.
They're going to want to interview me.
They're going to want to. And then crickets. I had to have been the fattest bat boy ever. I know that for sure.
You know what the funny part is Tony Boone, who's in your media relations. And Tony and I go way back.
I just learned.
Yeah,
about an hour ago, I learned about the old radio days.
Yeah.
And,
his first job out of college was KHAS in Hastings. And that's when I was out there, and we owned KHAS and KICS. And he came out and he got hired on as a sports guy, not the sports director, because we had Dave Brock, who was the sports director out there. And but Tony came on, and Tony was he was fantastic.
He
Ton
is.
of fun.
He's great. It's great to have him land with us.
Oh gosh, I mean, this is it was meant to be.
Yeah.
It really was. And again, one door closes, another one opens.
It does.
There's always a reason. And he reaches out about this whole deal, and then he says to me, I didn't realize until I looked at the pictures on the wall in the office that Pat used to be a ball boy. Were you ball boy or bat boy first?
Let's think about that for a second.
What's the progression?
What's politically correct? Let's think about that.
What's
I think
the
you might have just stepped in
progression?
it. I was a bat boy, then ball boy. No big deal. You have
boy,
to
then
go
ball
through training. You can't. They just didn't throw anybody under the net to look like an idiot.
So you were just collecting bats that they tossed.
Okay, you're minimizing it greatly. We'll talk to him and we'll talk to Dan about how much of an important role a bat boy
Then you
played.
captured stray balls.
I mean, if we're whittling it down to brass, yes, that's basically what I did.
But you were little.
But I was good at it.
You were really good
All
at
of
it.
We're
All
little.
Right.
Okay, I was short. Like Vers said, what was he saying about 2 inches away from being a circle back in the day?
And coming from me,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Just a little guy there.
Good point.
Okay, so in studio, go right ahead.
Dan Napoli, also the director of this movie, which we had the opportunity to watch it last night. I've always wanted to say that. God, we got to screen it before we did the interview. It's a big deal. Thanks for sharing that with us. And we both watched it yesterday, and it's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Dude, thanks so much for having us on. This is cool. I think this is the first piece of press since its release that Marty and I have got to do together and actually talk to people that have seen the film and then go back and forth, other than a couple of the Q&As. So this should be super fun.
This is
awesome.
Great.
No,
Thank you. I'm honored.
And it is awesome. You're right, Dan, and Bill Hipsher and the whole crew at Hurdat Films. It was something that goes way back, January of 18. No, wait, all my years go together. January of 17. I get a call from Bill, and actually, we're talking about a different project. And Bill says, "Hey, I've been thinking, your 50th season's coming up. What are you guys doing?" I said, "Well, we have a 50th season committee, and we're talking about promotions and marketing and years, and it kind of lined up perfectly. We're going to celebrate 5 decades, and starting in 1969, and then having the 50th season in 2018, it kind of lined up to make the decades really easy and to celebrate that way. And then also the way the names of the teams ended up lining up, because the Chasers weren't Chasers till 2011, so that even peeled the decades down. And I said, that's kind of what we're doing. He said, cool. How would you think about a movie? I'm like, okay, whatever. And he said, no, seriously, we're talking about this project. I said, well, I tell you what, put something on paper and reach back out. And I just thought that'd be the end of it. Well, Dan can really tell the rest of the story.
So it's funny, dude. So the reverse side of that coin, why that's going on, is so we had finished in an action sports movie in a documentary in October 17. or maybe 16 even. And Bill is like, hey, so Bill is our producer on the film, and he's the president of Heard Out Films of the studio. And was like, is this ours? And I was like, well, kind of, we had a brand. And he's like, oh, we should make more of these. And yeah, I just see the wheels turning, and I'm like, all right, cool. And then I think I got an email maybe, or I got a text from him that he's like, hey, got an idea. Just met with Marty. We're going to do what do you think about us doing like a 50 years Stormchasers and minor league baseball documentary?
No brainer.
Yeah. And I'm an ex. I played D2 out at Kearney. Not very well, not for very long. I was a left-handed pitcher, got a little elbow surgery. So I was a lifelong baseball guy. My dad's a Brooklyn Dodger guy. I was born in Brooklyn. He's old enough that he remembers like getting the day off from school when the Dodgers won in 55. So I was
baseball's
like,
in your blood. It's not like you had to go learn the game.
Yeah, so this was like awesome. Okay, let's.
Was it overwhelming though when you think 50 years in one movie? Because all the history that's in there is like, how on earth are we going to get this all pulled? I mean, that's a lot of good stuff.
I said not my problem, but that's why I hired you. I always tell people, just wind me up and tell me what you want me to do. That's fine. I'm ready, and that's kind of how I have learned to live my life. I don't know that I always like it that way, but yes, we had already spent about 7 or 8 months laying the groundwork, and Casey Long really led. She's not with the organization anymore, but she was our promotions and marketing director, and she really was laying the groundwork for how we would celebrate and which former players would we bring back, and what is our budget. And I mean, it could have been whatever, but we're still minor league baseball. We're not Major League Baseball, so we had to do it from a fiscal responsible standpoint. And we had so much stuff. I couldn't imagine where they would start from, planning and shooting and locations and storyboarding.
But again,
and
not your problem.
Yeah. You're exactly right, Pat. Right. Exactly right.
Got it.
Well, and our thing too is, we basically had laid it out, and Bill had laid it out early, and this is kind of like, this is my favorite. This is how I explain, if you haven't had like the privilege to work with Bill, it's awesome. He's a guy like very analytical, really quiet. Like Bill will kind of come into a room with his arms crossed, he'll kind of analyze what's going on, and he'll be like, unicorn made of ice cream. That's what this room needs. And you're like, yeah, hell yeah, that's what this needs. That's awesome. And he's like, cool. So I got some other things to go figure out.
You take
some
care of
great
it.
ideas. I'll come back and you tell me 6 months, whatever, and we'll have a unicorn of ice cream. And it's like, okay. And then our job's like, okay, figure this out. So we knew 50 years of Chasers, but also wanted to tell and to be able to tell the grander arc of minor league baseball over the half century through the experience of the Stormchasers, and then also peel back a little bit of the game day staff experience, Marty and what his team do. So it's
Which is not what I expected when I saw this. I expected
really?
straight up historical documentary, and it was an awesome surprise. That's the first thing I told her this morning when we talked about it.
Oh, wow, right
It was
on.
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really, and you're right about that. It made me ask so many questions in my head, and I was like, wait, okay, so, and I don't know the answers to these, but I see the picture of all the different ball caps on the wall with all the teams, right? And I'm thinking, okay, so where do the Royals fall in the line of succession as far as being the minor league team? Who was first? Who was the first? Who came first? What chicken? What egg?
From a standpoint of the 50 years?
Before the 50 years, before the Royals, who was out there in the same position before the Royals became
here in
Omaha?
market. So you had the Dodgers in the 60s, and then before that, the whole reason that Rosenblatt was built was the Cardinals were looking for a place for a minor league affiliate. So the Cardinals were the first team. So Rosenblatt was built 47, 48, and opened in October 48 to a barnstorming game, and then the Cardinals played starting in 49. Well, the NCAA was looking for a place to move the College World Series. It was in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is funny because that was the market I was in before I came here, and Rob Crane and I were there. So things are always connected in a weird way.
Crazy.
But had professional baseball not been looking to locate here, we wouldn't be talking about what the College World Series means from an economic impact, or if you read the news today, what impact is coronavirus going to have on the College World Series. It never would have happened. It would have either stayed in Kalamazoo or would have gone somewhere else. So 1950, first year of College World Series. And then the Cardinals, I don't remember, Dan, 57, 58. They went away for 3 or 4 years, and the Dodgers came in 61 for 4 or 5 years.
I think Steve Rosenblatt had said, I think they left in 58 or 59. Then Jesse mentioned, I think the Dodgers were 2 years, maybe 61, 62.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
And then there was a gap for about
69.
7 years.
1969.
Yeah, until 69.
Really?
I remember
Okay.
being an employee and a huge fan before I worked for the Royals, and we'd go all the time, to the games. I remember actually I couldn't stand the College World Series because I was so mad that people showed up for the series all the time, and the Royals had 1,000 people at games. Like, it just pissed me off. My dad and my dad would fire me up all the time, because he was even more fired up about it, because I thought it was like, well, man, we can't even support our own team. It's our Royals. So I boycotted the series, and then I realized how fun it was.
Well, it's weird. Like, as a director on things like this, sometimes you do learn stuff. And so I guess I didn't really probably like a lot of people in Omaha. And I love the College World Series, like I said. So I grew up in Denver, and all I wanted to do was be good enough to play in the College World Series. And I didn't realize, you're like, yeah, it's this awesome 10-day college baseball festival. Yeah. And I didn't realize what's the other side of that coin of, like, when it was all in one stadium, like the strife that it really put on the minor league team. I was like, oh my God.
You explained it so well too in the documentary. I mean, the disappointment and the real upheaval that it caused when you all had to, like, okay, can you guys move? Because we need to bring in the NCAA.
Yeah, and Pat, you bring up a good point as well. In the 70s, it really wasn't like, from an attendance perspective. College World Series didn't really draw anybody until around 80 when ESPN started showing it on television. Right. And I even remember long cords, black and white television in Louisiana, watching Cal State Fullerton on a small black and white TV while my dad made me put tomato plants in peat moss cups.
That's a memory.
But it is. And I grew up a baseball family. So, that was my first connection to Omaha in the early 80s. But it wasn't until ESPN and television and media when the College World Series really started to explode. And at that time, we weren't here. Our organization was here. We don't know what the organization was or wasn't doing from a community engagement, from a ticket sales perspective. But whatever happened. And for a number of years, the franchise really did languish, mid-'80s on for a while. Had some good years in and out of there, but
it seemed to kind of spike back up a little bit when, like, mid-'80s, when the Royals won the championship in Kansas City.
Absolutely.
And then it brought back, and it was like 89, 90, whatever, when the AAA crown we got that here, and that kind of spiked it up. I remember that crowd being insane, and the press coverage was huge. So it did at the end of the 90s, end of the 80s, early 90s. It started to kind of get a little momentum, which was awesome.
So we've been through a lot of years, but no, the College World Series, JT, it was something that was great for Rosenblatt, and it is something that continues to be good for the metro area, and anything that is baseball ultimately is good for us. We fundamentally believe that, but that doesn't mean on a day-by-day basis it's great for business. And at that time when we had no ticket office when we moved out. Literally, in the general manager's office, I had 1 or 2 other people that were housed with me for 2.5 weeks. Pictures come off of walls. And there was a photo that I wish I would have shared with Dan and them. All the metal shelving would go along this one wall in my office, and all of the computers from the ticket office and all of our ticket stock and all of our basically office supplies went in my office along with 1 or 2 other people.
Incredible.
It would have been a great still shot. And maybe I should send it to you, and it could be part of a media kit, press kit.
Dude, please do.
Yeah, but I found it, of course, too late, too little, too late. But those are things that I think some people knew. But I think the film does capture what that is. And to a degree, were we frustrated and pissed off and angry? Yeah, absolutely.
Because you were kind of like, it was like you were an option, not a priority.
We were.
And it was just like, okay, well, we'll come back to you as soon as we get done with this.
That's correct. But really the frustration was we had to have a potty pass just to use our regular bathroom.
Story.
That's
insane.
a great
That's real.
story.
That's real.
That's your house.
That's real.
That's your
And,
house, but somebody
yeah.
else is living there, so you got to ask permission.
Yeah, to use the restroom. And look, I understand you got security measures and all those things, but at the end of the day, the franchise, not us, but the franchise was absolutely a redheaded stepchild. And, it's interesting. When Mr. Buffett told me years ago the reason why he bought the Omaha franchise or bought into the Omaha franchise was to save the College World Series. And when I first had him tell me that in his office, and I was with Alan Stein, a former team president and one of my mentors. I looked at Alan, I looked at Mr. Buffett, wanting to ask a question. But when you're with Mr. Buffett,
You don't keep your mouth
you
shut.
shut up
Yeah.
and you listen because you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I don't operate like that a lot, but I did in that situation. In that situation.
Yeah, get it.
And his next comment was because the age of the facility, we had to have a full-time tenant to make it easier and more affordable to keep the Rosenblatt up for the College World Series at that time. It's common sense when you stop
Right.
and think about it. Oh yeah, okay, that's why you are.
That's interesting because that was another thing that you guys kind of peeled back some layers on it. I'd never thought of that side of it. That argument I'd never heard was the fact that when they built TD Ameritrade, there was so much controversy. I mean, we were at the time, right? Having people on talking about that whole. It was just, oh my God! And of course, like Exarban to me was Rosenblatt to him. And so, it was just heartbreak when they said, we're tearing it down and we're going to build a new one and it's going to be bigger. And it's like, I don't want bigger and better. I want this one, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of it, when they said, you don't have to have a full-time tenant, think of all of and Memorial Stadium was the one that really
Alan
clicked
Stein's
for me.
quote in the film.
Yes. It's empty the rest of the year, except for those few weekends that the Huskers play and maybe state.
8 to 10 dates a year.
It was really interesting in our process, also talking and getting other people inside minor league baseball and like their perspective on that whole thing. And again, just all of these layers that you don't think about. I think Branch Rickey had the quote. It might have been Pat O'Connor. Branch Rickey's president of Pacific Coast League, Pat O'Connor, president of minor league baseball. But that like special scheduling for the whole division, all of their partners and how they have like what you have to do to keep a team on the road. And if you've ever run any kind of athletic league or any kind of tournament, you got to have this balance of the seesaw. If somebody goes here, then this goes here. And you don't really think about that.
Right.
The ripples.
Yeah.
It was an impact to the Iowa Cubs. It was.
Wow.
I mean, for years, they continue to be our travel partner. And, there are some years we were on 4 city trips and some years it was 5 city trips. It just depended on how those dates fell. And
I think it was Kevin Reichard who runs Ballpark Digest pointed it out too, that at least especially in those days, where the philosophy for a long time was like, or at some point in time became, we're going to have like 4 or 5 big events and 4 or 5 big games. And we're going to, make all our money or draw on Father's Day, the 4th of July, and then you go, oh, wait, Omaha's never home on Father's Day?
this is the first year.
That's
Wow.
stinks.
That just gave me goosebumps just thinking that.
Seriously.
It's like, whoa, I never
Yeah.
realized that.
Yeah.
That's true.
This is the first year, and I don't know, definitely my time.
I got
That's right, because it'd always be the College World Series.
Dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How
that's
excited are you about
come
that?
out. So come out.
No, because I remember that it'd be like the opening weekend of the
Wow.
series, and I would get the tickets, and I'd take the kids down for Father's Day.
Yeah,
The series,
yes.
never even thinking that the
Yeah.
Royals or Storm Chasers
It
were
could
out
have
of
been
town.
30, 40 years. I don't know how long it's been.
Wow.
And you're right. The effect is way bigger than just what was going on in Omaha. Everybody
Absolutely.
else had to accommodate the World Series as well.
That's
the
correct.
College
Yeah,
World Series.
It was interesting. I think it became. I think what I hope folks take away from that section of the film as a director, anyways. I don't know how Marty feels about this, but is especially by the point in time that TD came in and then Warner Park was built. And I think a lot of other folks in minor league baseball we talked about articulated this pretty well, that they really became different games. And Omaha's such a good baseball town. It's totally realistic that can be supported. And, on nights where there might be a College World Series game, you could still go to Warner and it's pretty packed. It's just, it's not totally the same thing.
Yeah, 7 games this year head to head. We've never had more than 5.
gosh.
So we
Wow.
have 7 head to head this year.
It's a good, because again, what you guys really did a great job in the documentary is talking about the experience of not only minor league baseball as a whole, but specifically out at Warner Park. And so families that want to go out and have a good time, like I don't remember who said it in the film, that a kid doesn't want to sit there for 5 innings and watch baseball. They want to have fun. So you're not going to take kids down to the series.
Which drives me crazy, but yes.
I know. Baseball purists drives you nuts.
It's perception is reality. I'll give you an example. My daughter's a senior now. In high school out at Millard South, and we probably started going to Chasers games.
You look like you're 18.
I know he does.
Are you?
He seriously does.
That's the end of the interview. That's ridiculous.
You're lucky I shaved, dude.
Yeah, that is insane.
You're lucky I shaved, or the 44 comes through a lot.
Whatever.
That's hilarious.
Oh my God.
But if you asked her, "Are you a baseball fan?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I love the Chasers." We had started going to games at Warner when she's maybe like 11, 12. I bet she has not watched 3 consecutive full innings. It's like,
but it's a memory for her.
2 2/3,
yeah.
right? But at least her perception is, I like baseball, and so she'll sort of stop on it. And I know that's hard, And much like a lot of people talk about in the film, my dad. We went to Bears games. Zephyrs games in Denver. Here's the scorecard, or you open up the program. Here's how you keep score. Like, this is what you are doing. I think it's Tom Chattel from the World Herald makes that comment in the film.
He does.
And so it's really different. And I know for purists, it's, and it's like probably like Marty. It's even something I wrestle with sometimes where I'm like, you watch 2 innings. How can you say you're a fan?
You want to go home? But what?
You're gonna go walk around?
Yeah.
What do you?
But at least the thing is, she doesn't want to go home. After 2.5 innings, what she wants to do is get up and walk around the berm,
which is cool.
Just kind of do that sort
True.
of.
And you couldn't do that at TD Ameritrade. That's another thing.
At Rosenblatt.
Or at Rosenblatt.
Yeah.
It's at Rosenblatt. You couldn't do that. It's like this brought a whole nother element to
Our
it.
art director told a story. So Max Riffner is our art director for the film, the Omaha native. He did the illustrations where his dad was openly cursing at him when Max was probably like 10 or something like that, where, okay, we're going to go to see, you got what you need? Do you need to go to the bathroom? No, you're good. Okay. And they get in there, and then like 2 innings later, it's like, Dad, I got to, we talked about this. And, you got to get up and you got to kind of do the little shuffle, and it's kind of uncomfortable,
Totally.
It's a plan. It's a game plan going in for the spectator. Even more so.
Yeah.
I'm going to say you got, get everything you need. We're going to go and we're sit, and then that's it. Enjoy.
And we want people up because
Yeah.
that means they're spending money.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's part of the design. That's been part of the change from the early 90s, and definitely the difference from Rosenblatt. And TD's a little better, but it's still TD's a large cement building. I mean, that's what it is. There's no amenities from a standpoint of the general fan. You go to watch a baseball game. So even though it's the 360 concourse, it's not the same stroll that you have at Warner Park when you're seeing lights and colors and dogs and people running on the berm and kids
You can
playing
still see the
catch.
game.
And all while you're doing that,
Yes.
you can still
Which
see
is
the
awesome.
game.
Yeah, from every angle, you can still see the
can.
game.
You know what? When you were talking about the College World Series, the CWS coming in and the officials, and I remember, and that's something that not a lot of people really understand. Like you had said, I didn't realize it was as extreme as that. But from the Bat Boy grounds crew, whatever worker perspective, I remember, and Jesse Cuevas was my boss at the time, and he
Bless
would,
you.
and I love Jesse.
One quick story.
Yeah.
Jesse sent me a text last week.
Yeah.
You never cease to amaze me, period.
That's it.
Cat night, question mark.
Really?
We're having take me out to the ball game. This year.
I know. It's already on my calendar. My wife
yes.
put it on her calendar.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
She
sorry
was-
to digress.
My wife is so excited about Take Me Out to the. Trust me, it's in August, right?
It's late in the year. It's
Yeah,
either
yeah.
late August or early
Yeah,
September.
I know it's already on.
I don't even want to know what that involves.
I'll see you then.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. But I remember like a month or so before the series, or a few weeks, and he would be stressing out because the officials would come in and they would go through and do like a checklist of everything that needed to be changed, and you'd go through, and the field would have to be perfect. Like you couldn't do anything as a grounds crew, as a bat boy. Like Jesse would yell at me all the time if I would throw a bat or something on the grass, like by the logo. If the series started in 2 days, he'd Salford, he'd scream like, "Oh God!" So I know that the tension was super high when the series would come in. And I don't think people really realized that it was an absolute life change for everybody there when it was like 2 or 3 weeks before.
It'd be like somebody coming in and moving all the furniture in your house.
Right.
Well, and it's like,
It is. I mean, operationally,
Yeah.
the NCAA looks at whether it was Rosenblatt or whether it's TD as their building, not our building. and they use it for it's theirs for, they're here.
The
Their event's
duration.
3 weeks, and the other parts of the year we get to borrow. I mean, that is how, and that's what you're explaining, and that is just through conversations I've had with Jesse and a number of others. And I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing, but when you take that concept, take it to where the other operational folks are trying to operate, or were trying to operate the Omaha Royals, Omaha Golden Spikes. The other time during the season, there were things that would be asked from the professional baseball team that would be told no out of, I don't want to say fear, maybe that's not the right word, but that doesn't fit the box.
They don't
that
wanna
doesn't
deal
fit
with
the
it.
mold. So when the two stadium conversations started and everybody looked at us, like we had 8 horns on top of our head, and I reminded them I only have 2, not 8. is it was hard for us to explain why, because Des Moines is the closest affiliated baseball facility that we have here. When you're North Carolina, there's 7 teams, in Pennsylvania, and they found that out when they were doing the film. All those facilities had changed. They were all the amenities. They were the 360 concourse. That was the biggest thing, is we had to open Werner so people could understand why to. So for 3 years, we took our lumps.
Yeah.
We did. We took our lumps, and that was fine, because the reality is, we have 70 professional baseball games a year. We have more than 100 special events, and now we're adding professional soccer team. Without Werner Park,
Yeah.
professional soccer would not
Right.
be coming to the
That's
state
exciting,
or to
too.
the city,
Very
which
cool.
another topic.
Yeah.
But that's what Werner Park has meant. It is truly a community destination. It's not used for 3 weeks and maybe another handful of special events. I mean, it literally is used, close to 200 times, and it's only pretty much used from March 15th until October 1. That building is busy.
That's amazing.
The
I
building
didn't
is
realize
busy.
you had that
That's-
lake so close to your stadium. We were driving by there the other day. I'm like, there's water over there. And Beth
Yes.
got on the GPS. Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It's a humongous lake right
Yeah,
there.
Prairie Queen is awesome.
One of the things that Rob said in the documentary was saying we have 72 opportunities a year. Never thought of it in those terms before. You got 365 days. We have 72 opportunities. And you just mentioned now you're up to closer to,
Well, we're 70.
You're 70.
We're down to 70. It used to be 144 divided by 2. Now
Okay.
there's 140 divided by 2. We've lost some games due to some major league, minor league conversations.
Well put.
And again, another topic for another day. But we're now able to have more than the 72 we had at Rosenblatt because of the community dates, and we manage the building, along with Sarpy County. From an attendance perspective, 65+% of our fans still come from Douglas County.
Yeah.
Around 25%, come from Sarpy County. So it is the community ballpark. It's not Papillions or Sarpy County's ballpark.
truth.
It's the communities, and now with soccer coming in, it's going to be more statewide.
It's
So
awesome.
I want to go back to something that you guys were talking about
Yeah.
with the stadiums and other places and whatnot. And I think because it was really interesting, some of our support staff mentioned this, and some people that mentioned this at the screeners. I don't think people locally understood the experience gap from about 95 until Warner came up as to what was going on elsewhere in minor league baseball. And I think that a lot of folks, the perception was like the old school experience at Rosenblatt, which is still what was going on. And I even remember a very different, like my senior year, we got the Rockies and we got the Sky Sox. And even though I think Colorado Springs facility, I don't know where it ranks now, but at the time it was this like, so at first you're like, well, we have the Rockies now. Why would I drive an hour to go to the Sky Sox? And like, no, it's crazy. It's different. There's a hot tub in left field. It's nuts.
Party.
Yeah, all of these
Right.
different like, and I think there's that part in the film where you can really start to see them laying out minor league baseball as a whole was changing the experience, but Omaha wasn't quite able to do that for quite a while.
We did what we could. The kids area, I always joked, you had a kids area at Rosenblatt, yeah, but then you had a concession stand, then you had a team store, then you had a wall, then you had a concourse, then you had another concession stand, and then you had another wall, and then you had the seating, and then you had the game.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's changed the most is the viewable assets that are in facilities. And we sat here and joked about not scoring anymore as far as during while you're watching a game and all the different things that people like to get up and walk around. That has changed. And we have modified our industry the last 30 plus years. I mean, I think it's up to 137 ballparks are either new or completely renovated since 1990 of 160. And when you're talking about $5 billion in facilities and another $1 billion in renovations, that's all since the early 90s. The game has changed. The game absolutely has.
Watching 50 Summers, I got to say, it really took me off guard. How I would feel seeing the pictures and videos of Rosenblatt, because I haven't looked at my pictures in a long time. I haven't seen pictures of Rosenblatt in a long time. So seeing that for the first time, it's like, oh man! And I hadn't seen, because we didn't have cameras everywhere with us back when I was working there. I haven't seen what it looked like in the dugout and see those old wooden, like the steps and the bars and how the bleachers looked like. It was awesome. So anybody that's been around minor league baseball, College World Series, or Omaha, the Royals organization, that's been to Rosenblatt even one time, needs to see this movie, because it takes you back it's like you can smell it again.
You can.
It was awesome.
They did. Dan and his team did an amazing job of capturing that.
Yes.
And some of the footage that we also found was the old black and white. That just kind of happened, and it was great to see that footage that was added in there.
You guys found. I mean, so all of those resources, all of those visual resources, in one way or another, came for the Chasers. We had 16. There we found. Or I shouldn't say we, 2 reels of 16 millimeter film were found from 69 and 70, which we converted. And one of their people they called us and were like, hey, we cracked open a pallet and these tins fell out of this box. Do you guys want? And we're like, yes.
Yes, all the tins.
What are they? All the tins?
No. You think I said I want a lot of tins? I want all the tins.
All the tins.
So we took it to Omaha Trans Video, which is great because you have to have that stuff converted. And really awesome guy Joe out there, and we don't know. We're kind of looking at it, and it's funny. Again, Max and our art director were old enough that we remember doing photo stuff by chemicals, and the two of them smell differently. So we're like, I wonder what they used on this. But we still don't know what's on there, and they convert it. And Joe calls us and he's like, your conversion's done. You probably want to come on down and
you gotta love
look
to hear
at this
that.
stuff.
Oh my God.
That's
it's
incredible.
like, okay, you want to sit down before I hit play, right?
And you
okay.
just see like a young Bob Quinn who I just, I was in his house, I don't know, 10 months earlier going like, oh, wow, this is incredible. So we got really they had a ton of resources at, that was probably tougher than the story stuff at some point. I mean, that's what I'm, employed to do. I've done 15 or 16 documentaries. Bill was probably had enough foresight to realize that I was had gotten to a point that I could manage this story-wise. But it was the resources that I just was like, holy, what do we do? And then
That they had the foresight to store some of that stuff.
But most sports organizations don't do a good job, and I'm really referring to minor league baseball organizations. And the reality is, who kept it all was Bill Gorman. Bill kept everything though, so it was good that he kept it. But he had other things. It's been kind of funny over the years, and Bill unfortunately passed away before this film was completed. I believe it was spring of 17.
A couple years,
that Bill passed, and I've gotten to know his son Will, and great guy, and we renamed the offices during the 50th season. It's the Bill Gorman Administrative Offices, and then we renamed the press box, Piv's Press Box, after Steve Pivovar, one of our he was a long-term beat writer, and he continued working even close up until the time he passed away in 16. He was official scorer for years for the Pacific Coast League. So those are the things that we've tried to do. We've tried to, Dan talks about us having these archives. the history is important to me. It's something that's important.
Yeah.
I'm not from here, but I get it. The history of the game is important. That's why a lot of these things that are happening in today's game with today's commissioner are quite troubling. And I think that he's a bad steward of our game. I think he's terrible for our game, quite honestly, for a number of reasons. And it saddens me, that it's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the money. And I think one of the things with Bud Selig, although none of us are perfect, I'm far from it, but Selig, at least, even through all the things he did to grow the game, he still always said they had a fundamental responsibility to be the caretaker of the game, to be stewards of the game, not to be the owners of the game.
Yeah.
And those are two polar opposite things.
Whip your vision into shape right there, yo, with Kugler Vision. We love that they're a supporter of our podcast.
Absolutely. They've got some great things that are happening on their website. If you haven't been there recently, at kuglervision.com. It already was so user-friendly if you'd thought about having any of the procedures done. And so many different procedures. It's not just one procedure, one size fits all. But interestingly, you'll find over 600 five-star patient reviews, which is amazing, the number of people that are taking advantage and saying, you know what? 2020 is going to be my year. And I think there were a couple of them that were talking about making improvements, that 2020 is the year. Right?
Yep.
They're ready to go. And one of
Absolutely.
the first ones was Vision.
I said what Gary said too. Dr. Kugler's office is amazing. They are amazing because you have cookies and they have delicious flavored waters.
They do.
Oh, and then they're also great doctors too.
And that too, don't
Yeah.
forget. They said that the staff made the procedure a breeze. That's from Natalia. I especially enjoyed the surgery prep in a massage chair, covered by a blanket, drinking some tea. I was relaxed, anxiety gone. I wish I'd done this years sooner. Now, to make it even simpler, you can text them. The number to text is 72000. You want to text C Omaha, 2 words, to 72000. I did that. And you will get back a response that will first ask you to confirm. So I text back yes. And then it sent me a link. And when you go to the page, it, of course, welcomes you. And then it's got some real quick questions about what it is that you're looking for. And then I got a follow-up phone call real quick. And super nice. Nicole called, and she's there just to make sure that you got the information you wanted. And if you had any further questions, she was there to help you out.
Get that consultation now at Kugler Vision. You can also go to kuglervision.com.
And tell them Pat and JT sent you. When you talk about the history, too, it's kind of interesting with referencing Bull Durham in the movie and how that kind of spiked interest. But the way Bull Durham and the way all of those teams are portrayed, it's understandable why everybody's shocked that there's any history saved at all, because it all seems like it's slapped together, and it's just like whoever we can get to fill a seat. We need a warm body. Some are broke down. Some don't know what they're doing. They don't know their head from their
For a while,
other end.
it was like
and
that.
it's fun to look at that and then realize the resource. It's unbelievable.
It is. Yeah, it is. And it's funny, JT, because at the time, and one reason why there aren't archives of that's when major league clubs owned the minor league clubs. When these started becoming local owned entities or owned entities by folks that didn't have the means to own major league franchises, but they have the means to own minor league franchises like a Gary Green. I wouldn't put Mr. Buffett in there because he could have owned the whole Major League Baseball. But Gus Cherry, who was the first, non-Royals owner, and they told that story in the.
How late did the Royals own?
85.
Because it surprised me how late it was.
Yeah.
It really did surprise
16,
me.
17, 18 years.
Somewhere in the mid 80s, I think, is when Gus. When Gus bought the team.
I think my first year was 87 or 88. I don't remember. It's about when Gus Cherry had just that was like this first or second season. Because I remember meeting him.
Picture
He
was
was always
87.
right there by the little stairs that would go down behind home plate. He would always sit right there. Very, very nice.
Because there's that shot where we took the 2 baseballs that you guys had, because you guys
so cool
had saved the ball from his first game and marked it, and then the ball from his last game.
That was
we
very
had
cool
a really
touch.
cool shot.
That was really cool.
There's so many synergy. I want to go back to Gorman for a minute because this is hilarious. I'm so glad we got to talk to Will. And here's basically how that went down is Marty texts me and he's like, "Hey, are you guys going to talk to Will Gorman?" I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great. When's he here?" And Marty's like, "Well, he's here now." It was like a Friday night or something like that. I'm like, shh.
It was a Sunday afternoon game, and it was hot as hell.
Yeah.
And ended up getting him in. No, it wasn't. I think it was a Saturday night. I think you're right, because he ended up being night. Branch Rickey was a Sunday afternoon.
Yes,
so
but we planned on Branch. So
Yeah.
I text my DP and I was like, James, what are you doing right now? And actually he's like, well, I'm at the game. I'm at the Chasers game with Lacey, his wife. And I was like, oh, okay. So I hate to do this to you, but if I go bring all the gear, I didn't realize that this was like Will Gorman's here is his only night. James was like, yeah, of course. So I hit the studio, pack up my car. We haul it down there, get there like just in time. He was super cool. It was super gracious to sit with. But it just, thankfully I don't live too far from Warner Park.
That's
Yeah.
But we just kind of missed.
Oh my God.
And then speaking of Gus Cherry, oh man, there was a really, we were trying to get, so Jamie Uretsky that was in the film kind of represents Gus's time. Jamie's his nephew.
Yes. That was a weird connection as well. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah, tell me again, Marty.
So I'm walking around
we
the
were trying to get him, but we
ballpark
couldn't
with one of
find
our
him.
Pepsi contacts, walking around the ballpark, and I don't even remember the gentleman's name. He was viewing the ballpark, and he said, "Yeah, I know a guy that used to be tied to the Omaha franchise, a guy named Jamie Uretsky." I'm like, "Okay, great. Who's Jamie?" Well, he's related to one of the former owners, and my ears perked up. And it was all about the same time we were trying to find Jamie Uretsky because Jesse Cuevas had given me his name, and we were trying to locate him. He was in Kansas City area, and I, for whatever reason, and my Google and tech skills aren't very good, but and then we connected the dots. The gentleman gave me his cell phone number. I called him. He said yes. I hooked Dan up with him, and then Jamie came up, and right across the street over in their studios was Jamie.
That's awesome.
Because like we found like Casey found a Facebook page that looked to be his, so we sent him a message, but it maybe wasn't really managed that much. So we were trying to get a hold of this person, and then lo and behold, Marty through the Pepsi distributor.
I mean, random.
Yeah,
You never know.
You never know.
Total Omaha moment.
Bill Gorman. He was there at the time when I was there, and I remember my because Will would hang out too at the ballpark.
He did.
Sometimes.
He was a bat boy. He worked
was.
as a clubby. Will did a lot of
Will,
things.
I think Will was the clubby, the visiting clubby, home clubby. Yeah, I think he was one of two clubbies when I was there. Anyway, so I remember my first year. I said a couple of stories. He was a great guy.
Awesome.
He. I would go on the road with the Royals. My first year, I was super pumped. I was I knew I had no boundaries, right? I would.
How old are you? How old are you at this time?
13, 14. Whatever. So but and Terry Wendlandt was there in the office, and so I remember asking, I don't know who was the manager at the time. It might have been John Wathen or Salinesi. I don't remember. Not a Salinesi. Sal Rendy. Anyway, I'm asking, can I go on the road with you guys? It's just to Des Moines, it's just a bus. I'll just go over there. My dad will pick me up afterwards. I'll stay with, I think Mike McFarland I'll stay with Mac, and he said I can stay. It's cool. He's like, dude, you got to go talk to Gorman and ask him if you can go, because it's his ultimate, and then they have to clear it through Gus. I'm like, okay, I didn't even know. At that time, I'm like, I don't care who I talk to. I'm gonna go on
I'll
the
go
road.
find him. Yeah.
So I went up there and finally I had to pitch my case to Gorman. He finally let me go. Yeah, he's like, you know what? That's fine. He goes, you have to cover. You have to cover something, whatever. And my dad's like, yeah, sure. So he let me go, and Gus
It's a great
let me
experience.
Go.
How many times did you go to away games with the team?
I went
do you
to
think?
Des Moines a couple times, and then I went on during the series, I went on a 7 or 8 day road trip with him to Louisville, went to the Sounds.
Holy
and
cow.
That was
It
the
was-
Old American Association.
Yes, it
and
was.
where did you get to sleep?
On the floor. On the mattress. Whatever, man. I'm like, whatever, I'll stay. I think I stayed in 5 different rooms.
Because it was. I mean, you think about it at the time too. You get the baseball players, and they've got their own groupies, of course.
Oh, yeah. There was one not to be named player that I remember wait kicking the side of my mattress, and he goes, Safford, you got to go down and stay with Hurley. I'm like, what? I look up and he's got 2 blondes on each arm. I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't even know what this means, but
Why?
I'm fine. Whatever. I'm
they
going.
can sleep by me. It's okay.
They want to watch TV with me? Magnum's on.
That never happens anymore.
Never.
But dude, that brings up an interesting thing from the film again, which I don't know why, but I guess I just didn't get it. I know about Ron Sheldon's experience, but that Bull Durham was so accurate. Everyone that we talked to that had been around were, even to the point this part, if you
The
remember,
women's underwear part wasn't right.
I don't know.
I'm
I
just
don't know about
asking.
that. I mean, you'd have to talk to a player. I'm
never
sure there's
know.
some pitchers I can say from experience, pitchers are weird dudes, man. We have weird superstitions, but
Especially lefties.
especially lefties, dude. Yeah, I got to own that, man.
Hey, I used the same batting glove the entire summer. I mean, it smelled like
I'm
like
sure,
I put
yeah.
a dead raccoon on
I
my
think
hand.
about what I, put my mom through when
Oh,
she
I
would be
know.
like, "Don't wash that uniform. What are you talking about?" She's like, "Oh, there's like smoke coming off it." But no, there's that scene in Bull Durham where they flood the field so they can get a day off. And in real, and even, watching that, I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's funny. I'm sure that's Hollywood. Not only did Jack, I didn't realize this until I was posting it in post-production. I'm like, oh my God, these are different stories from different years. Jack McKean and Jesse told stories from different years where they did that in Omaha.
At Rosenblatt.
I didn't know that till I watched the movie last night. I had no
Yeah.
clue. I thought that was incredible.
That's hilarious. And that's what, thank goodness that we had like our art director, Max, because the thing with that scene is like, talking to Jack McKean was amazing. But, that's probably like an 8.5 minute story. And I can't have an 8.5 minute story in the film. So once I tighten it up, I'm like, there's certainly no B-roll of these players. But thankfully we're so lucky. Max, our art director, was a comic book artist. Like he's done a bunch of indie comics. He's done a bunch of SpongeBob. He's an illustrator. So he was like, oh yeah, so I thought that added like a fun little thing to the film. But yeah, those stories are what's so cool about minor leagues.
And all of them like flooded back last night when I saw the images of Rosenblatt. There was a gentleman in the movie, I don't remember who it was, but told a quick story about how he ran out to catch the ball off the net.
Yes.
Caught his cleat in his pants and he fell. And I'm like, and that
stuck with me too when you told that story.
That's Steve Rosenblatt.
That was that's why I was like, whose son was that? That was the son of
Johnny
that's it.
Rosenblatt's
Yes.
son.
that exact thing happened to me because after I was at bat boy my first year as the net guy. Tony Vendetti retired, went on to Hall of Fame, and so I was the new net guy, right? And this same thing happened.
You should have talked to him. I'm just telling you right now, you guys.
You missed it.
You missed a resource here. Okay.
This thing happened. Both of these things happened the same night. 16,000 people there. The San Diego Chicken was there that night, packed, right? And I saw that last night. I'm thinking, God, all this stuff. What's going on? I was crying. And so that I was in the locker room, and it was during whatever innings or that he takes a break, right? It was hot, so hot. And I walked in. First of all, it messed me up because he had his head off smoking. I'm like, what? Because you weren't supposed to. First of all, he was kind of I don't know if you guys know him, but kind of a jerk. He was kind of a jerk.
Ted. That's all I'll say.
You're not supposed to talk to the chicken. I didn't want to talk to the chicken, but I
like
walk
the
in. He's
wizard? My
literally
God.
sitting there on a folding chair, smoking with his head underneath his arm. So I'm kind of rattled, right? And I go back out. I had to get some more mudded up balls for the umps, and I got them, and I ran back out underneath the net, and I kind of sprinted back and made it back just in time for the pitch. I hear it. You know that sound when it's not a solid. Goes back up on the net, and I hear the tzzz of the vinyl. I'm like, oh, where is it? Where's the ball? Turn around, I see it. Everybody, they anticipated that at the time because that was kind of a thing. If you caught it, you got to cheer. They hadn't updated the nets yet. On the first base side of the net, there was a little lip, and if it hits that lip, all bets are off. You have no idea where it's going. So, of course, it hits that side. I was still rattled because I had the chicken smoking, and I'm not thinking, and I go out, and I get right on the edge of the warning track and the grass, and it pops up, and off to the left, it shoots. I try to get it. I miss it. I just popcorn coming down on me. And as I'm walking back, I pick it up, just shame, right? Walking back, open up the gate, and right in the face, a hot dog. Somebody whacked some drunk dude threw a hot dog at me. And that was and then everybody cheered because I could hear the hot dog.
What happened to the hot dog?
Oh my God.
Well, I was fat, so I probably ate it.
Did you come back out?
I had to.
You
It was
had
a
to.
gamer.
Oh my
Man,
God.
it's game
Oh my
day.
God.
You
No
gotta do it.
choice.
So and it was so hot. But those are the kind of memories when I saw that are the things you think of when you see those awesome the video and the pictures of Rosenblatt. Man, what a great time.
Oh my God.
Great place.
I don't think there's anything more indicative of the fact that you grew up in the 70s or the 80s, the idea that like you could actually see the San Diego Chicken with his mask off smoking.
Like,
Smoking a heater.
Right? Not vaping in a car. He's smoking in a locker room.
Openly. What's up, kid?
Yeah.
Right. Don't look at me.
Takes you right back to Bull Durham when you think about some of the scenes that you saw in that. And it's like, again, you say that really happened. That really happened. So
Yeah, I had no idea. Everyone that we talked to. So when we go to structure the minor league baseball story part of it, very basic question that we ask all of our folks. Hey, can you give me 3 or 4 turning points in minor league baseball? And I even making this film as recently as 2 years ago, I didn't realize every single person said like, oh yeah, Bull Durham. Bull Durham was like a turning point for the industry itself. And I just didn't get, I was like, oh, wow.
I didn't even think about that till last night. It never crossed my mind. I love that movie.
Yeah.
you were already immersed.
True. Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
They
It's like it brought in a whole different crowd. It's like what a lot of movies do in their sports movies in particular. It's all of a sudden you'll see this resurgence of interest.
And I guess like they were an A-ball team at the time of the film, I guess is what the story is. I think Mike Burling was telling me.
Oh yeah,
And that
Durham has not been AAA very long, and which is quite amazing because they are one of the top 3 or 4 franchises in all of minor league baseball. And yeah, they were an A-ball club for years and playing in a small ballpark, which now people have a love for because of the film. But operationally, and I was able to go tour that. They hosted the AAA All-Star Game the year before we did in 2014, and to be able to go out and tour it and see it, and it was awesome. But it was also like, what's special about this?
It looks like a high school field. I mean, we went and shot it, so it's only like, which that was so cool. Sammy Anzari, our drone operator, he was our DP for our North Carolina shoot. We went out there and you're kind of like, it's so iconic, but you're like, this is like a high school field. Like it just is. There's just not much to it. Yeah, a small school. You're just like, wow. It's pretty. I mean, there's really no seats except behind home plate and the grandstands and the dugouts. There's certainly nothing down the line. I mean, it was like, wow, that's really crazy. And their new facilities, wonderful.
It's amazing. The DAP.
Yeah.
Durham Athletic Park is just amazing, and downtown Durham is that whole area just continues just to explode.
Yeah.
But Mike, who's a really close friend of mine, and he was gave us access, and
so wonderful.
It's good to have friends.
Yeah.
No
It's good to
kidding.
have friends.
For you, how many of the both of you actually, how many of the small parks have you been able to see?
Well, I've been in a lot because I was in the Southern League for 4 years in Jackson, Tennessee, Birmingham for 2 years. Then I moved to the Midwest League, Battle Creek, Michigan for 2 years. That's where, there are a number of smaller parks are there. I have not spent a lot of time in a lot of the rookie ball parks and lower A ball parks. Andrea Bador on our staff has. Anytime she goes on vacation, she always hits a ballpark or 10. And just to go tour them. So she would be a great ask about that. But, a lot of them, though, still have either been built new or completely rebuilt.
I can't believe there's as many as there are. When you're talking 160.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is.
There are today.
That's
We're
and they're all
we're hoping
they're all
they'll continue to be.
operational.
They are, absolutely.
That's something
I think
else.
that's an interesting thing in the film without, sidetracking with diving too much what's going on today. But Mike Burling said from Durham that at the time, everybody there was very negative for them to build that ballpark, but that entire downtown, in Durham, in the field, there is a restaurant in left field that if you get outdoor patio seating, you're just chilling watching the game. It's ridiculous.
Catching home runs.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's not in the ballpark though. It's outside.
Outside of it. And Burling noted in Durham, all of that economic development, all that whole area, there's a whole district around that place. It's super cool. Really wasn't there apparently until it built around the ballpark.
It's been slow. It's been slow to build, like a lot of facilities and a lot of communities do, and it depends on, when you build and you build in the height of a recession, like TD Ameritrade.
Yeah.
You guys did. I didn't realize that same year.
I mean, it was
only 2 in the country.
Yeah.
It opened that year.
But when you think about taking these minor league teams out of these communities that don't have that this is it for them, and then even
no other pro sports.
Yeah. And then even when you get smaller, when you go to cities that maybe have AA or single A, you're talking, they might not have as many other things going on as Omaha does. Like some of these places,
they have nothing.
Is just what they got.
Burlington, Iowa, for example. What else are you going to do if you don't go to a Bees game?
Yeah. No, that's true. Omaha, when you hear people talking about Omaha just in general, that's why I like just the idea that the movie's going to be out there. because of so much history. And for a lot of people that are fans, it's not going to be a surprise because they already knew all these things or were pretty up on it. But for people that are going to go see it that don't have that same connection, or maybe they have their own team in another, they just like, I have a major baseball league team or major league baseball team they watch. This is like an eye opener to see Omaha. There's a lot going on in this town, and you're right.
There is.
The people though really do support their baseball, and they really show up to support. By the same token, the College World Series. They're
absolutely.
They have no dog in the fight. And they'll still go down there because it was baseball.
And it was a tradition, and it's fun.
It is.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. And I will one compliment to you that maybe I didn't make before when you were talking about making that move every year for the College World Series, so that the people on the outside had no idea. And that's why it was so shocking when I saw that and when I heard what you were talking about. You guys do such a great job, or did such a great job. Thankfully, you don't have to do that anymore. That nobody realized, and even for the team. You know, because you never heard the grumbles. You never heard.
Well, when you have an abusive uncle, nobody ever tells you about it. Like, hey, Uncle Rick's coming over. He's a dick.
I was about to say, thank you, I think. You
hit it well.
We talked about that. I mean, we did. We talked about it internally. You know, it's. I wouldn't go as far as say we're taking one for the team. I mean, I guess to a degree, maybe you could, but at the end of the day, we are professionals,
Yep.
and we were professionals then, and. Are there things we would have done differently? Probably not. I think our staff, Rob Crane and Lori Schlender and Andrea Bedore and Mark Nasser, who's been with the franchise for a while, you know, and all the people that were there that aren't there anymore, we're just doing our jobs. You know, at the end of the day, you know, we go back to the full-time versus 3 weeks. You know, we all live here.
Yeah.
We're all part of this community.
Yeah.
We're involved in Rotary or ALS, or we're involved in our churches, or, you know, Girl Scouts, whatever, pick whatever it is. And that's the one thing that I think is important. And I think if there's anything I can get across to anybody this year, we've had 2 terrible weather years at the ballpark. We're in year 10 now. Ballpark's not new anymore. And there's a lot of competition. If anybody hasn't been to a Chasers game in 2 or 3 years, come to a Chasers game.
Yeah.
If you came to 2 last year, come to 4. We don't need everybody to buy season tickets, although we would be appreciative of that.
This makes it so much easier.
But I think people have become a little complacent and a little comfortable, as have we maybe, and we're trying to do some new things. We joke about the cat night at the ballpark.
My wife never would have said, hey, we're going to go to a baseball game. But, hey, take me out to the ballpark. She's going to be there. We'll
I
all
can't
be
wait
there.
to see your cat on a leash. It's going to be awesome.
That's all I'm envisioning. I'm just like, this is going to be a disaster.
I don't even know how it's going to work, but we're going to be there. Well, you said at the beginning of the film, it's not a job for you. It's you look at this like you're getting up and you're not going to work.
Yeah.
No, we feel that we're stewards of the game. We feel that we're an outlet for people to come out and have a great time. They want to watch baseball. They're going to see the top talent. And wow, do the Royals have some talent coming in this year and in the next 2 or 3 years. It's going to kind of be like 2010 through 2013. So I urge people not to miss that. But it is. I think if there's anything that we need to do a bit better job is it's marketing or selling the fact that come support your team. Not our team, not our organization, not our franchise, but
our team.
Your team.
Yeah.
And I think the film is a little bit of a reminder, and watching it again this past week, the film's a little bit of a reminder of that. And I think they did a great job of telling the story. And trust me, when I'm sitting at a press event in June of 12 and Warren Buffett leans over to Gary Green and says, just remember, Gary, this isn't your team, it's the community's team. That's right before Gary took the keys to the franchise. And
no pressure.
But his words are
Yeah.
true. His words
Yeah.
are true. And you know what? Like I said earlier, we're not perfect. We make mistakes, but we feel like, at least for the 14 years that I've been here, we feel like we're really trying to do a
you
good
believe
job
it? Yeah.
for the community to be proud of
And
this
we are.
AAA
We are
organization.
Very, very proud.
I'm so
of the
glad.
story.
14 years has gone fast.
It has.
That's for sure. Because I mean,
has.
Rob was on our show regularly,
And he's been
Loved-
gone
Wow.
since 12.
and I feel like he just left.
Right. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy. We watch his
Not to
podcast,
me.
by the way, too.
Not to me. He hasn't been gone long enough.
Couldn't get him out of here quick enough. Oh my God. One more question too about the movie, the narration with Rob Riggle.
Yeah,
how
Rob Riggle.
how did that come about?
I mean,
Because
some
he's
serendipity.
like, it was recognizable, but it wasn't like oh my God, there he's talking again. He does a really good job, but then at the end, then I see his name again. That's who that is, because I knew who it was, I think, but it also worked perfectly because, like you want with a narrator, you don't want them to be the star of the show, but you want them to be recognizable, so there's a
you
comfort
wanted to
level.
add some stuff to it. So when you go to book a narrator for
This is a great story, by the way.
documentary, you're looking for one of two things. You're looking for somebody who's like really intrinsic in that world. If I'm going to do whatever, a show about chefs, and that's really who I'm aimed for. If I can have the most respected chef in the world as our narrator, like, okay, you get credibility there.
Right.
You're looking for credibility.
You talk about a unicorn too, because you don't always have somebody who speaks well.
Yeah,
That's
it's
part of
a
that
really,
world, right? So that's
that's
tough.
So what you do, and it's typical, like as the director and writer, so like I write all the narration. Most of your director or your film writer is going to do that. And then it's like, okay, the other type of person that you would pick is somebody who has like a really high profile, but two things, they're going to have some kind of tie to it. And then also like budgets. So we're thinking, Bill and I, we're talking about who we want to do this with, and you're thinking about Omaha ties. And then some of it is like, you have to have people that have like a narration voice. So you think about, like Adam Devine is who I love, but I don't know that his voice carries as a narrator, even if he would want to do it. Right. So we start thinking about, and I want to say my daughter and I had just seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I'm like, oh, all the big slick guys. And it clicked that I'm like, there's all of like Riggle, Paul Rudd, Sudeikis, all of those guys from Kansas City. I'm like, that could be like a perfect tie-in. So we reach out to their management, and realize that we're on the board with the kind of PBS rate that people would be like, Rob might be interested in this. I'm like, oh, awesome. And so we're waiting, and then we're getting to it to be like showtime. And I'm like, okay, so we got to go. I've got a guy I've worked with on a bunch of my other extreme sports narration on those films, a guy named Matt Marshall. Matt's on his honeymoon in Italy, but he's such a great dude. We've worked together for like 20 years. He's like, hey, we got a day off. So I'm finding studios in Italy. I get an email. Rob would love to do this. How's tomorrow afternoon? Fantastic. Yes, that's okay. Great.
That's perfect.
So Rob had an afternoon. He had like a morning shoot for a cameo on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and then was off in the afternoon. So we're looking for studios in Burbank. But meanwhile, at the same time, so now Bill and his agents are doing all the agents, producer stuff. So I still haven't got full confirmation yet. So I have to act as if. So I pull this 24-hour day. I stay up. Because of the time difference, I produce Matt. Matt goes into the studio in Italy and records a version for us. Oh my God. 7 a.m. our time, get the email from Rob's people. Cool, everything's great. And at the meantime, too, I'm calling studios in LA, and, a dumb Midwestern, I'm like, oh, they're going to be so pissed. Like, nobody's going to have a studio where I'm like, hey, on no time, I need an hour. So we call a couple of the places. This is Agent Sigdeath. Really nice girl working the desk. She was from Wisconsin.
Awesome.
Another Midwesterner. So I'm like, hey, I know this is insane, but I need a studio for an hour this afternoon. And she's like, well, who's it for? And I was like, oh, it's Rob Riggle and her doing. And she laughs and is like, oh, she's like, hey, dude, no. This happens all the time. We actually have a studio that we just keep on for people coming and doing ADR. Because in LA, as you start thinking about TV, that's a lot of where it would just be like, oh, hey, we need your pickup shot. You come in here. So Rob shows up, is super amazing, such a good dude. First thing that he does, which is just absolutely no reason for him to do this, but like he congratulates us. He's like, hey, man, congratulations on finishing this. Like, I know what a big deal that finishing like a film is. You're like, wow, man. He was super cool. He wore his Royals Converse that they had given him to the recording session, which is pretty sweet. These like specially branded with like the Royals logo on it from their win, and just was super awesome, man. So we chunked through the narration in like an hour and a half edit session.
Amazing.
Got it back the next morning, laid it in.
Wow, that is amazing. My gosh. You guys, I'm glad we had that story in there. I'm glad we got that in there too.
So when's the movie out? Where can people see it? What all the details on that?
Movie's out right now. It's available on iTunes. It's available on iTunes, Amazon Prime, Google Play.
Okay.
It's also available on various cable companies, VOD, video on demand, and Cox is one of those carriers. So
Excellent.
it's like Cox, Xfinity, and another handful of the big ones. So yeah, it's out there. That's how you can check it out.
You guys are
Please
awesome.
do.
Thank
Dan
you for giving
Napoli,
us so
thank
much
you for
time
coming
today.
in.
Absolutely.
Marty Cordero, thank you very much. I know you have things you got to go to.
Yeah,
Thank you for
absolutely.
coming in and doing this with us. This has been fascinating.
And congrats to you guys. You know, I know we
Thank
saw
you.
each other a couple months ago at Omaha Rotary West.
Yes.
Not a plug there, but kind
of a plug there.
And appreciate you guys being there. But congrats. I know
Thank
the
you.
media world continues to change, and you guys, you've landed.
Thank you.
I'm
you.
happy for you guys. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. We
This is
appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having us.
You got it, guys.
50 Summers,
Thank
guys.
you.
Check it out.
Text us 402-403-9478. You can also find us anywhere on social. It's Pat and JT.
Pat and JT Podcast, a Parkville Media Production.